Above the sprawling, smoke-choked landscape of occupied Germany, the bomber rose like a fragile titan against the gray dawn, engines vibrating in the chill morning air as the sun struggled to pierce the layers of clouds heavy with fog, smoke, and the omnipresent scent of war. The aircraft's aluminum skin humming under the strain of altitude, each rivet and panel holding the weight of both history and human survival. And in the cockpit, the pilot's hands gripped the controls with white-knuckled precision. Eyes scanning the horizon for the first hints of flak, the sharp flashes of anti-aircraft fire that would mark the beginning of a descent into chaos so violent that any hesitation would cost lives. And as the bomber crested the clouds, the crew's faces were etched with tension, breaths shallow, muscles taut, each man aware that this mission was unlike any other they had flown. For intelligence had warned of an entire German flak division concentrated along the flight path. Batteries positioned with surgical precision. Radar tracking calibrated to intercept at exactly the altitudes they would traverse. Each cannon a silent predator poised to strike with deadly accuracy, and the very air seemed alive with threat, invisible waves of danger radiating from the earth below. As if the clouds themselves whispered the names of men who would not survive, and in the first 60 seconds, the scene escalates with cinematic intensity. Tracer rounds suddenly pierce the gray sky. Silhouettes of shells erupting into arcs of lethal fire, explosions rip through cloud banks. The bomber shudders violently, instruments flickering, and the pilot executes evasive maneuvers honed by countless hours of experience. Banking and diving in a dance with death, each movement a negotiation with fate itself. As flashes of orange and red illuminate the sky, casting long shadows over the crew's faces, highlighting fear, courage, and the fragile line between life and annihilation. And outside, the flak continues its relentless barrage. Shells screaming toward the aircraft in patterns calculated to intercept, yet somehow miraculously, the bomber threads through, metal groaning. Control surfaces straining, every second stretching into what feels like an eternity. Adrenaline spiking, the pilot calculating every turn, anticipating every trajectory, trusting both training and instinct. And as the smoke and chaos surround them, the story immediately hooks the viewer, immersing them in a cockpit-level, high-altitude battlefield experience, where survival is a blend of skill, chance, and the inexplicable, setting the stage for the epic journey through flak-laden skies that will define the bomber's miraculous flight across a heavily defended landscape, a flight that will test the limits of human endurance, mechanical reliability, and the very laws of probability. With every heartbeat, every twitch of the throttle, every shudder of the fuselage reminding the viewer that what they are witnessing is not just a historical recount, but an unfolding narrative of tension, suspense, and awe that will span 6 extraordinary segments, each revealing the peril, courage, and mystery that made this bomber's survival a true miracle of World War II aviation. Asterisk as the bomber surged forward through the cloud-streaked sky. Each second was a symphony of mechanical strain and human tension. Engines roaring in a constant battle against gravity and wind, controls vibrating under the stress of evasive maneuvers. The aircraft twisting and tilting as flak shells erupted all around in perfect arcs designed to shred both metal and flesh. Every explosion sending shockwaves through the fuselage, rattling instruments, buckling panels, and spraying shrapnel in unpredictable trajectories and within the cockpit. The pilot's hands moved like lightning over dials and switches, adjusting altitude, banking sharply, descending just enough to avoid a deadly burst, then climbing aggressively to stay out of range. Each movement calculated to the millisecond. Each decision a razor's edge between life and death. While the crew's eyes were fixed on the horizon, watching tracer lines crisscross the gray sky, each one a streak of potential doom, their collective breath synchronized with the shaking of the plane as though the aircraft itself was alive and terrified. And outside, the ground below became a mosaic of destruction and strategy. Anti-aircraft batteries arrayed like jagged teeth, guns trained with deadly precision, radar operators tracking the bomber's every motion, firing in deadly harmony, a mechanical orchestra of war designed to annihilate everything that dared traverse its field. Yet somehow, against all odds, the bomber endured, metal screeching, hydraulics straining, engines screaming in protest, and the pilot, relying on a combination of instinct, skill, and almost superhuman focus, navigated through an aerial minefield that no training alone could have prepared him for. Each maneuver recorded in the minds of the crew as if slow motion, every heartbeat exaggerated by adrenaline. While outside, the clouds themselves became both ally and enemy, concealing bursts of flak, yet simultaneously masking other approaching threats. German fighters darting from within the mist, engines whining, guns blazing, tracers slicing the gray sky with geometries designed to encircle and destroy, and the bomber twisted, dived, and climbed with acrobatic precision. Metal groaning, controls rattling, yet responding perfectly under the tension of imminent destruction. While the crew coordinated in near silence, voices terse but deliberate, passing instructions and status updates, their communication a dance of efficiency honed by shared experience. And below, forests and rivers became fleeting landmarks. Glimpses of the earth through gaps in the clouds, a reminder of the fragile connection between sky and ground. War and survival, life and death, and as flak shells detonated around them, the bomber's fuselage absorbing impacts that would have downed lesser aircraft. Sparks flying from shredded wingtips, instruments flickering, and smoke creeping into the cockpit, the situation escalating from high tension to life-threatening urgency. And every twist, dive, and climb became part of a ballet of survival, orchestrated by instinct and courage, yet amplified by the viewer's imagination. As each second of flight drew them deeper into the cockpit, feeling the vibrations, hearing the explosions, sensing the sheer improbability of escape, and as the bomber pressed further through the gauntlet, fuel levels dropping, engines straining, and the margin for error shrinking to zero. The story unfolded not as a mere historical recount, but as a visceral, heart-stopping immersion into a true miracle. A flight that defied probability, mechanical limits, and human endurance, setting the stage for the next segment where the bomber's journey would continue into even more unimaginable dangers, enemy traps, and moments of sheer breathtaking suspense that would leave the viewer gripping the edge of their seat, fully engaged and compelled to witness every harrowing twist of this extraordinary flight across one of the most lethal air defenses of World War II. Asterisk. As the bomber pressed deeper into the heart of the German flak zone, the sky above transformed into a chaotic theater of war. Clouds illuminated sporadically by tracer fire and distant explosions, the horizon fractured by the flashes of anti-aircraft bursts, and each detonation reverberated through the aluminum skin of the aircraft with such ferocity that the crew could feel the very vibrations travel through their bones. Instruments jittering in a dance of warnings, gauges trembling with stress, and the engines screaming as though protesting the impossible demands placed upon them. While the pilot, eyes scanning, hands moving instinctively, and mind calculating every trajectory, altitude change, an evasive maneuver with near mathematical precision, navigated the plane through corridors of fire that seemed designed by fate itself to test every ounce of courage, skill, and endurance. And as bursts of flak erupted in deadly proximity, the bomber twisted, pitched, and rolled in a fluid ballet of survival, metal groaning under tension, rivets threatening to shear, and instruments flickering in warning. Yet somehow the aircraft responded, carrying men through a storm of fire that should have destroyed it, and the crew, tense and silent, moved with practiced coordination, checking instruments, adjusting bomb loads, communicating threats, and anticipating the unpredictable arcs of exploding shells that left no margin for error, each impact sending shrapnel rattling through panels, some embedding in the fuselage, others ricocheting dangerously close, as if the sky itself was a predator and the bomber its prey, and beyond the immediate bursts, the horizon revealed the subtle yet terrifying presence of German fighter aircraft, silhouettes darting in formation, their engines whining a predatory chorus, guns blazing, tracers intersecting with flak bursts in lethal geometry designed to box in and annihilate any bomber foolish enough to enter. Yet the pilot's acumen, honed through countless missions and sharpened by survival instinct, allowed him to thread the needle with a combination of precise climbing, banking, diving, and calculated evasive rolls. Each movement a blend of audacity, skill, and instinct. While the crew watched as the sky around them erupted in a mesmerizing yet deadly display of fire and smoke. Tracer lines zigzagging unpredictably, shells detonating in flashes of orange and white. Smoke curling in intricate patterns as if mocking the crew's attempts at survival. And through this maelstrom, the bomber continued its miraculous trajectory. Engines throttled to maximum, fuel rationed carefully, and structural integrity tested to its limits. Every vibration, every shudder of the plane, every flicker of instrument light heightened suspense, drawing the viewer into a visceral experience where fear, courage, and human endurance collided in the crucible of war. And as the aircraft passed through successive layers of flak, each denser than the last, the crew became hyper-aware of every nuance in air pressure, every subtle shift in cloud patterns, every fleeting shadow on the horizon that could signal an enemy fighter or the next explosive volley. And despite exhaustion, fear, and the near-impossible odds, the pilot maintained razor-sharp focus, improvising adjustments to rudder, throttle, and elevator in real time, exploiting every minute opening in the sky, exploiting every gap in the enemy's coordinated fire. And each success, each narrow escape, elevated tension and suspense. As the viewer is compelled to experience the hairbreadth escapes, the miraculous threading through layers of fire, and the incredible endurance of men and machine alike, and even as the bomber's metal groaned, engines smoked, and instruments flickered warning, the narrative pushes forward, highlighting the miraculous resilience of the aircraft, the unbreakable spirit of the crew, and the raw improbability of their survival, setting the stage 4.4 where the bomber will face yet deeper layers of danger, mechanical strain, and the near certainty of destruction, keeping the viewer glued, heart pounding, eyes wide, as the miraculous journey through one of the deadliest flak zones of World War II continues with unrelenting suspense, intensity, and cinematic tension that leaves no moment of the flight unaccounted for, no heartbeat ungripped, and no possibility of escape less than miraculous. The bomber now entered what seemed like the very heart of hell itself, the dense anti-aircraft defenses below orchestrating a symphony of destruction that transformed the sky into a lethal maze of fire, smoke, and shrapnel, every flak burst exploding with devastating precision, sending jagged steel fragments screaming through the air in chaotic arcs, metal groaning under stress as rivets threatened to shear, panels rattling like brittle bones under the relentless assault, while the engine screamed in protest against the impossible demands, thrusting the fragile aircraft through a labyrinth of deadly trajectories, the pilot's eyes scanning frantically, fingers flying over controls with lightning precision, adjusting pitch, bank, and throttle to weave through this mechanical storm, a dance of instinct, skill, and raw courage where any hesitation would result in instant annihilation. And within the cockpit, the crew's tense coordination was nothing short of extraordinary. Each man relying on training, communication, and trust in one another's decisions, their collective breaths shallow as the plane shuddered violently, instruments flickering and occasionally failing under the shock of nearby detonations, while outside, the clouds swirled ominously, both hiding and revealing deadly threats, masking the arcs of incoming shells and the shadowed approach of enemy fighters, which emerged from the gray mists like predators, engines screaming, guns blazing, tracers cutting geometrically through the smoky sky, a deadly lattice designed to ensnare and destroy. Yet the pilot executed a series of maneuvers so precise, so acrobatic, that even the most experienced observers would have doubted their feasibility, rolling, diving, and climbing with breathtaking dexterity, the bomber twisting like a living thing in response to his commands, metal straining and bending under extreme stress, yet somehow holding, and as each second stretched into an eternity, The crew's tension mounted, each flak burst sending adrenaline and fear coursing through their veins. Yet they continued to perform their duties, checking instruments, maintaining communication, calculating fuel, engine performance, and trajectory with meticulous precision, the cockpit a nerve center of focus. Discipline and terror, while outside the environment seemed almost sentient. Clouds twisting and shifting unpredictably, lightning streaking across the sky, creating momentary shadows that resembled other aircraft, confusing both eye and mind. And through this storm of fire and steel, the bomber persisted, defying probability with each miraculous avoidance of deadly flak bursts, engines overstrained yet enduring, fuel gauges dropping dangerously low, instruments warning of impending failures, structural integrity stressed to the brink, and the pilot continued to calculate, adjust, and improvise with unyielding resolve, threading the aircraft through the densest zones of anti-aircraft fire with a combination of courage, intuition, and mechanical mastery that seemed almost superhuman, while the crew, equally resolute, supported the pilot's efforts, their eyes and minds scanning for threats, measuring each burst of flak, each silhouette of enemy fighter, every change in wind and cloud, every subtle vibration in the fuselage. And as the bomber emerged from one particularly lethal volley, the crew caught fleeting glimpses of the ground below, scarred by war, littered with ruined villages, shattered factories and the remnants of earlier bombings, a reminder that every second above this hellish landscape was a miraculous triumph of survival. And yet the danger was far from over, as deeper layers of flak, unseen threats, and unpredictable turbulence awaited ahead. The plane's systems already pushed too near failure. Engines overheating, hydraulics faltering, fuel dangerously low. And yet, the pilot pressed on, improvising adjustments, trusting training, instinct, and the fragile resilience of the aircraft. Each maneuver a testament to human courage and mechanical endurance. And as the audience watches this spectacle unfold, the tension escalates to near unbearable levels. Every second, loaded with suspense. Every shudder and flash of light a visceral reminder of the improbable survival taking place. Setting the stage 4.5, where the bomber will face the ultimate test of endurance, resolve, and miraculous fortune, keeping viewers on the edge of their seats. Fully immersed in the gripping narrative of a flight that should have ended countless times, but continues to defy fate itself. A journey where every heartbeat and every breath hangs in perfect suspense, compelling complete attention from start to finish. Asterix, the bomber, now hurtled through an almost surreal tapestry of danger. The sky above Germany transformed into a relentless storm of fire, steel, and smoke. Each flak burst detonating with an ear-splitting roar that rattled the fuselage, shaking rivets loose and bending panels as though the aircraft itself were caught in a vice of destruction. The engines screaming at maximum throttle, pushing beyond designed limits, while the pilot's hands and feet moved in perfect synchrony over controls that vibrated like living extensions of his will, adjusting pitch, yaw, and bank with split-second precision, calculating trajectories of incoming shells, evasive arcs, and the unpredictable approach of enemy fighters, whose dark silhouettes emerged suddenly from within the thick, rolling clouds. Engines screaming in predatory synchronization, guns blazing, tracer lines cutting sharp geometric paths across the smoky sky, each one aimed with terrifying accuracy to annihilate any bomber foolish enough to remain. And as the crew braced themselves, the tension within the cockpit became almost unbearable, hearts pounding, muscles taut, every sense heightened to the razor's edge of fear and anticipation. Each explosion sending shrapnel ricocheting dangerously close, some embedding in fuselage, others whistling past the wings, instruments flickering, smoke creeping along panels, alarms screaming, and yet the pilot, driven by a combination of instinct, skill, and near-superhuman focus, threaded the bomber through a complex ballet of survival, banking sharply to avoid bursts, diving to exploit gaps, climbing aggressively to escape arcs of destruction, every maneuver calculated and executed with absolute precision, while outside the clouds twisted and roiled with chaotic energy, lightning streaking across the sky in jagged flashes, illuminating the terrifying landscape of smoke, fire, and mechanical death, revealing the sheer density and coordination of the flak batteries below, arranged like a minefield of invisible mines, each one capable of tearing the plane apart. Yet somehow, miraculously, the bomber endured, metal groaning, engines overheating, hydraulics straining, and fuel reserves dropping dangerously low. And the crew, despite exhaustion, maintained perfect coordination, monitoring instruments, relaying threats, adjusting defensive guns, calculating the slightest deviations in trajectory, their collective nerves and skill holding the thin line between survival and annihilation. While the pilot pushed both the aircraft and himself beyond the known limits of possibility, improvising adjustments to control surfaces, throttles, and rudder in response to every unexpected blast and sudden turbulence, threading the plane through gaps smaller than any I could predict, evading death with a miraculous combination of luck, intuition, and courage. And as the bomber approached the densest concentration of flak yet encountered, explosions tearing through clouds in all directions, smoke curling like spectral fingers, shells detonating mere feet from the fuselage, instruments flickering in warning of catastrophic failure, structural stress reaching critical levels, yet still the aircraft remained airborne, the pilot maneuvering with a calm that defied the chaos, the crew's coordinated actions ensuring that each burst of fire, each encroaching enemy fighter, each mechanical anomaly was met with swift, deliberate countermeasures. And as the sky erupted in a maelstrom of sound, light and danger, the tension reached a crescendo. Every heartbeat synchronized to the tremor of the fuselage. Every breath, a conscious effort to stay alive. Each second, a victory over death. While the viewer experiences the impossible odds in real time, feeling the vibrations, the explosions, the near misses, and the miraculous thread of survival that propels the bomber forward. And even as the engines threatened to fail, as hydraulics wavered and instruments dimmed, as clouds swirled like living walls and enemy fighters lurked in every shadow, the aircraft pressed onward, a testament to resilience, courage, and human ingenuity, surviving what should have been certain destruction, setting the stage for the final, climactic Point 6, where the bomber will face its ultimate test, and the narrative will deliver the heart-stopping resolution of an incredible story of survival, miraculous endurance, and the unbreakable will of men and machine alike, keeping the audience gripped with suspense and complete immersion in every harrowing second of the flight. Asterisk. As the bomber pressed into the final stretch of its unimaginable journey, the tension in the cockpit reached a level so intense that every vibration, every sound, and every flicker of the instrument seemed magnified 100-fold. The engines screaming against the thinning air, metal groaning and bending under stresses that would have destroyed lesser aircraft, rivets loosening, panels shuddering, while the clouds above and below twisted like living entities. Thick, blackened smoke curling in unpredictable currents. Lightning flashing intermittently, illuminating the skeletal remains of the devastated German landscape beneath them. And in this final hour, the bomber faced what seemed to be the most concentrated, coordinated, and lethal array of flak yet encountered. Shells detonating in perfect arcs, tracer lines slicing through the smoke-filled sky like spectral knives. Each burst a razor-edged threat designed to tear apart aircraft and crew alike. Yet the pilot, eyes scanning, hands moving with practiced precision, instinct and training fused into a singular, unbreakable focus, guided the plane through this infernal gauntlet with breathtaking skill, climbing, diving, banking, and rolling in maneuvers that seemed almost impossible. Each movement a negotiation with death itself. While the crew executed their roles flawlessly, checking instruments, maintaining communication, manning defensive guns, and relaying real-time calculations of trajectory, wind, and enemy positions, their hearts pounding in rhythm with the shuddering aircraft. Breaths shallow and synchronized, muscles taut with tension, And as the flak continued its relentless barrage, some shells exploding mere feet from fuselage, sending shockwaves rattling every panel, igniting sparks, and showering the aircraft with fragments, the pilot pushed both man and machine beyond known limits, improvising with split-second adjustments to throttle, rudder, and elevators. The engines responding to near-impossible demands while outside. The clouds and smoke concealed both danger and potential escape routes, creating a labyrinth of uncertainty where one miscalculation could mean instant destruction. Yet somehow, through a combination of courage, intuition, skill, and extraordinary luck, the bomber threaded the needle, narrowly avoiding each deadly explosion. Evading enemy fighters darting from the shadows, their guns blazing, tracers forming lethal webs in the darkened sky. And as the minutes stretched into what felt like hours, the crew began to grasp the magnitude of their survival. The improbable chain of events that had allowed them to traverse the densest flak zones, survive attacks from fighters, withstand mechanical stress, and endure exhaustion. While the pilot's focus never wavered, calculating, improvising, and executing each maneuver with unparalleled precision. Every action a testament to human skill, endurance, and determination. And as the bomber finally cleared the last of the flak, the clouds beginning to thin, the faint glow of the Allied-controlled territory appearing in the distance, the tension did not immediately dissipate. For the final stretch demanded absolute vigilance. The risk of mechanical failure, hidden flak, or unforeseen obstacles still looming, and in these moments, the narrative hook reaches its pinnacle, drawing the viewer into every vibration, every shudder, every breath of the crew, fully experiencing the miraculous survival as though seated within the cockpit itself, feeling the terror, exhilaration, and awe in real time. And as the aircraft touched down safely, landing on a battered but intact airfield, the gravity of what had just occurred settled over the crew and the audience alike. The miraculous endurance of man and machine, the improbable survival against overwhelming odds, the sheer audacity and skill of the pilot all coming into sharp relief, leaving viewers with a deep, visceral understanding of what it truly means to defy death, survive against impossible probability, and witness a miracle that spanned hundreds of miles of hostile skies, lethal flak, relentless enemy fighters, and mechanical strain, concluding the story with maximum suspense, awe, and engagement, ensuring that the viewer remains captivated from the first breathless second of point 12, this final, breathtaking moment of victory, survival, and historical astonishment. A narrative that is as educational as it is thrilling. A cinematic journey through one of the most miraculous flights of World War II, a testament to courage, skill, and human resilience that will resonate long after the video ends. As the bomber entered its final stretch, every vibration and flicker of the instruments felt magnified, engines screaming through thin, icy air, metal groaning, rivets loosening, and panels shuddering under stresses that could destroy lesser aircraft. While outside, swirling clouds, black smoke, and flashes of lightning revealed the shattered German landscape below. Deadly flak erupting in precise lethal arcs, tracer lines slicing through the sky like spectral knives. Yet the pilot's eyes scanned relentlessly, hands moving with practiced precision, guiding the plane through the infernal gauntlet, each climb, dive, and roll a razor-edged negotiation with death itself. The crew executing their roles flawlessly, manning guns, checking instruments, and relaying vital calculations as shockwaves from nearby explosions rattled the fuselage, igniting sparks and showering fragments around the aircraft. Enemy fighters darting from the clouds, guns blazing, yet the bomber evaded each assault with breathtaking skill. Instruments flickering, engines straining, hydraulic systems wavering, the pilot adapting with split-second improvisation, threading the needle of survival through courage, instinct, skill, and extraordinary luck. Minutes stretching into what felt like hours. Each heartbeat synchronized with the shuddering aircraft, exhaustion, mechanical stress, and relentless danger pushing man and machine to their limits. The frame trembling, panels threatening to peel away, The storm of flak and tracers persisting, yet focus unwavering, finally clearing clouds as the faint glow of Allied territory appeared on the horizon. The miraculous endurance of both man and machine undeniable, a testament to skill, resilience, and courage. Each breath and movement a victory over impossible odds. The crew, feeling the magnitude of their survival, the adrenaline and awe coursing through them, landing safely on a battered airfield, exhaling in relief at the miraculous, near impossible journey they had endured, leaving an indelible story of heroism, endurance, and extraordinary human skill etched into history, a cinematic finale that grips viewers. Holding suspense, awe, and tension to the very last second, the legacy of bravery and survival echoing far beyond the moment of landing. The impossible feat immortalized as a story of sheer determination, teamwork, and miraculous fortune, ensuring the audience remains captivated from the first second of the video to the final, breathtaking moment of triumph.